The sun was setting over Earth, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink. In orbit, the International Space Station floated peacefully. Today was special. A group of 10-year-old children were visiting the station on a once-in-a-lifetime field trip. Among them was Tommy, a bright-eyed boy with messy brown hair and a big smile. He pressed his face against the window, looking at Earth below. "Wow," he whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. Suddenly, a flash of light caught Tommy's attention. At first, he thought it was a shooting star. But then, a massive ship appeared out of nowhere. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. The ship was huge, easily 10 times the size of the space station. Its surface was dark and shiny, covered in strange symbols. As it moved closer, Tommy could see that it was shaped like a giant arrowhead. Inside the ship, Captain Zorn of the Galactic Empire stood tall and proud. He looked at the small blue planet on his view screen and sneered. "Primitives," he said, his voice full of disgust. "They haven't even colonized their own system yet." His second-in-command, Officer Vex, nodded in agreement. "Shall we make contact, sir?" she asked. Zorn waved his hand dismissively. "Why bother? They're probably too stupid to understand us anyway. Let's just take some scans and move on." Back on the space station, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed everywhere. The children huddled together, scared and confused. The astronauts tried to stay calm, but even they looked worried. "What's happening?" Tommy asked, his voice shaking. An astronaut named Sarah knelt down beside him. "Don't worry," she said with a forced smile. "It's probably just a drill. Why don't you kids go to the observation deck while we sort this out?" As the children were led away, Sarah turned to her colleague, John. "What the hell is that thing?" she whispered. John shook his head, his face pale. "I don't know, but it's not one of ours, and it's not responding to any of our hails." On the Galactic Empire ship, Captain Zorn was getting impatient. "These scans are taking too long," he grumbled. "Move us closer." Officer Vex looked concerned. "Sir, we're already very close to their station. Any closer and we might." "Did I ask for your opinion?" Zorn snapped. "I said move us closer." The massive ship inched forward. On the space station, Tommy and the other children watched in awe from the observation deck. The ship was so close now that it filled their entire view. Suddenly, there was a loud screech of metal. The space station shook violently. Tommy lost his balance and fell towards the window. There was a horrible cracking sound. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Tommy's eyes met Sarah's across the room. She reached out, trying to grab him. But it was too late. With a final crack, the window broke. The vacuum of space rushed in. Tommy was sucked out in an instant, his small body floating away into the darkness. On the Empire ship, alarms were blaring. "What happened?" Zorn demanded. Vex's face was ashen. We hit their station, sir. There's been a hull breach, and I'm detecting a small life form that was just ejected into space." For the first time, Zorn looked uncertain. "It's just one primitive," he muttered. "Surely they won't miss it. Plot a course out of here, maximum speed." As the Empire ship fled, Earth erupted into chaos. News of the incident spread like wildfire. Governments called emergency meetings. Military forces were put on high alert. And in a small house in suburban America, a mother and father received the news that their son, Tommy, would never be coming home. The incident that would change the course of human history had begun. The Galactic Empire had no idea what they had just unleashed. Earth was about to show the galaxy why you should never, ever harm a human child. The news of Tommy's death spread across Earth like a wildfire. Within hours, every TV channel, radio station, and website was talking about the alien ship and the tragic incident. People everywhere were glued to their screens, watching the same footage over and over again. In New York, the United Nations building was buzzing with activity. World leaders from every country had gathered for an emergency meeting. The room was tense, filled with angry voices and worried faces. "We must respond," shouted one leader, slamming his fist on the table. "This alien empire killed one of our children." Another leader stood up, her face pale but determined. "But how can we fight them? Their technology is far beyond ours." In the middle of this chaos, a quiet voice spoke up. It was Sarah, the astronaut who had been on the space station. "I saw it happen," she said, her voice shaking. "I tried to save him, but I couldn't. We can't let Tommy's death be for nothing." Her words silenced the room. Then, slowly, people began to nod. A sense of unity filled the air. For the first time in history, the whole world agreed on one thing: Earth would not stand by and let this happen. Meanwhile, in a small town in America, Tommy's parents sat in their living room. Their faces were tear-stained, their eyes red from crying. A group of government officials sat across from them, looking uncomfortable. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson," one official said gently, "we're so sorry for your loss. But we need your help. The world needs to hear your story." Tommy's mother, Linda, looked up. Her eyes were filled with a mix of grief and anger. "What do you want us to do?" she asked. The official leaned forward. "We want you to speak to the world. Tell them about Tommy. Make them understand what we've lost." Tom, Tommy's father, nodded slowly. "We'll do it," he said, his voice rough. "For Tommy." The next day, Linda and Tom stood in front of a sea of cameras. Millions of people around the world watched as they began to speak. "Our son, Tommy, was a bright, curious boy," Linda said, her voice strong despite her tears. "He loved space. He dreamed of being an astronaut. And now he's gone, taken from us by beings who saw him as nothing more than a primitive." Tom continued, his voice filled with determination. "We won't let Tommy's death be in vain. We call on the world to unite, to show these aliens that humanity is not weak. We are not primitive. We will fight back." Their words resonated with people everywhere. Social media exploded with messages of support and calls for action. #4Tommy and #EarthFightsBack became the top trending hashtags worldwide. In secret labs around the world, scientists and military experts were already hard at work. They pored over the data from the alien ship, looking for any weakness they could exploit. Dr. Emily Chen, a brilliant physicist, stared at her computer screen, her eyes wide with excitement. "I think I've found something," she said to her team. "Look at these energy readings. If we could replicate this, we might be able to build ships that can match theirs." Her colleagues gathered around, their faces lighting up with hope. For the first time since the incident, they felt like they had a chance. As Earth prepared for war, the Galactic Empire remained oblivious. They had no idea that their actions had awakened a sleeping giant. They didn't know that humans, when united by grief and rage, could accomplish the impossible. In orbit around Earth, construction began on a massive space dock. It would be here that humanity would build its response to the Empire's cruelty. The project was named Operation Tommy's Revenge. Its goal: to build a fleet of 700,000 dreadnoughts, each one a testament to human determination and ingenuity. As the first ship began to take shape, a message was sent out to every corner of the planet. For Tommy, for Earth, for humanity. The response was overwhelming. Volunteers flooded in from every country, every walk of life. Engineers, pilots, soldiers, all ready to fight for their planet. The Galactic Empire had made a grave mistake. They had killed a child, thinking Earth was too weak to respond. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson. Never underestimate the power of human love, human grief, and human rage. As dawn broke over Earth, the planet was already humming with activity. The world had changed overnight, and humanity was preparing for a challenge unlike any they had faced before. In Washington, D.C., the President of the United States stood before a group of grim-faced advisors. "We need to shift to a war economy," she said, her voice firm. "Every factory, every lab, Every resource we have must be dedicated to this effort. Similar scenes played out in capitals around the world. Countries that had been enemies for centuries now found themselves working together towards a common goal. The phrase "Earth First" became a rallying cry, uniting people across borders and cultures. In a massive underground facility in the Swiss Alps, Dr. Emily Chen and her team worked tirelessly. They had made a breakthrough in understanding the alien technology, but now came the hard part: replicating it. "We need to push the boundaries of physics," Dr. Chen explained to a group of wide-eyed engineers. "What we're attempting here, it's like trying to build a smartphone with Stone Age tools. But we have to succeed. We have no choice." The engineers nodded, determination evident on their faces. They knew the stakes. Failure meant the end of everything they knew and loved. Meanwhile, in orbit, the construction of the first Dreadnought was underway. Workers in spacesuits swarmed over the massive skeletal frame, welding and assembling at a frantic pace. Colonel Maria Rodriguez floated near the ship's future bridge, supervising the work. She couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at what they were attempting. "We're really doing it," she murmured to herself. "We're building a fleet to take on the stars." Back on Earth, recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. People from all walks of life, students, teachers, office workers, farmers, lined up to join the fight. The spirit of unity was unlike anything the world had ever seen. In one such center in London, a young woman named Aisha stood in line, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. When she reached the front, the recruiter looked at her curiously. "What skills do you have?" he asked. Aisha took a deep breath. "I'm a software engineer," she said, "and I want to help protect our world." The recruiter smiled and stamped her application. "Welcome aboard," he said. "Earth needs every talented mind we can get." As weeks turned into months, progress was made at an astonishing rate. Technologies that should have taken decades to develop were created in a matter of weeks. The first Dreadnought, christened Tommy's Hope, was nearing completion. But it wasn't just about building ships. Earth needed to prepare in other ways too. In schools and community centers around the world, people gathered to learn about space combat, alien cultures, and survival skills. In one such class in Tokyo, an elderly man raised his hand. "What if the aliens come back before we're ready?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. The instructor, a former military officer, smiled reassuringly. "That's why we're working around the clock," she explained. "And remember, we have an advantage they don't expect. They think we're primitive. They have no idea what we're capable of when we work together." As the day of the launch approached, tension and excitement built across the planet. In every city, giant screens were set up to broadcast the event. People prepared to watch history unfold. In orbit, Colonel Rodriguez floated inside Tommy's Hope, running final checks. She couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and nervousness. This ship represented the hopes and dreams of an entire planet. On the ground, in mission control, Dr. Chen sat at her station, surrounded by banks of computers. Years of work had led to this moment. She took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. And in a small town in America, Tommy's parents, Linda and Tom, prepared to watch the launch. They held hands tightly, tears in their eyes. Their son's death had sparked this incredible journey, and now they would see the first step towards justice. As the countdown began, the world held its breath. This was more than just the launch of a ship. It was humanity's first real step into the galactic stage, and they were determined to show the universe that Earth was a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Empire had no idea what was coming. They thought they had encountered a primitive species, easy to bully and ignore, but they were about to learn a harsh lesson about human resilience, ingenuity, and the fierce protective instinct of a species fighting for its future. The countdown reached 0. The engines of Tommy's Hope roared to life. Earth's response to the Galactic Empire had begun. The day had finally arrived. After months of tireless work, Earth was ready to reveal its response to the Galactic Empire's cruelty. The sky was clear, as if nature itself was holding its breath for this historic moment. In orbit, 700,000 massive ships floated silently. Each one was a marvel of human ingenuity, packed with technology that would have been considered impossible just a year ago. At the head of the fleet was Tommy's Hope, the first and largest of the Dreadnoughts. On Earth, billions of people gathered around screens, waiting for the launch ceremony to begin. In New York, the United Nations building was packed with world leaders and dignitaries. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. The Secretary General stepped up to the podium, his face solemn. Today, he began, his voice echoing around the world, we take our first step into the galactic community. Not as victims, not as primitives, but as defenders of humanity and justice. In orbit, Colonel Maria Rodriguez sat in the captain's chair of Tommy's Hope. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. All ships, report status, she commanded. One by one, confirmations came in from the fleet. Each ship was ready, its crew prepared for the journey ahead. Back on Earth, in their small-town home, Tommy's parents watched the ceremony with tears in their eyes. Linda clutched a photo of Tommy to her chest. He would have loved this, she whispered. Tom nodded, his jaw set with determination. And now the whole galaxy will know his name. As the ceremony continued, Dr. Emily Chen stood in mission control, surrounded by banks of computers and nervous scientists. She checked and rechecked the calculations. Everything had to be perfect. The Secretary General's voice rang out again. And now we bid farewell to our brave men and women. May they carry with them the hopes and dreams of Earth. A hush fell over the planet as Colonel Rodriguez's face appeared on screens worldwide. She looked calm and determined. On behalf of the Earth fleet, we accept this responsibility. We go to seek justice, not vengeance. To protect, not conquer. She paused, then spoke the words everyone was waiting for. Earth fleet, prepare for launch. In orbit, engines across 700,000 ships hummed to life. The energy output was enormous, visible even from the ground as a soft blue glow surrounding each ship. Launch sequence initiated, Rodriguez announced. May God be with us all. As one, the fleet began to move. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed. The sight was awe-inspiring. Tears flowed freely on Earth as people watched their defenders leave. In space, the fleet passed the Moon, then Mars. As they approached the edge of the solar system, Rodriguez gave her final order. Engage faster than light drives. In a flash of brilliant light, the Earth fleet disappeared from the solar system. Unknown to the humans, their launch had not gone unnoticed. On a distant planet, in a dark and imposing building, a galactic empire spy watched the events unfold with growing horror. Impossible, he muttered, his alien features twisted with disbelief. He rushed to report to his superiors, knowing this news would shake the empire to its core. As the Earth fleet journeyed into the unknown, they left behind a planet forever changed. For the first time in history, humanity was truly united. In every city, every town, people came together to support each other and prepare for whatever might come next. In schools, children learned about the brave fleet and dreamed of one day joining them among the stars. In laboratories, scientists continued to push the boundaries of knowledge, inspired by what they had already achieved. And in a small bedroom in America, a shrine stood as a reminder of why they fought. A smiling photo of Tommy, surrounded by candles and flowers, watched over Earth's first steps into a larger universe. The Galactic Empire had thought Earth was weak, primitive, easy to bully. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson. Humanity, when pushed, was capable of incredible things. And they were coming, 700,000 ships strong, to prove it. As Tommy's Hope led the fleet into the vast unknown, Colonel Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Hold on, Galaxy, she whispered. Earth is coming. The vastness of space stretched out before the Earth fleet. Stars twinkled in the distance, both familiar and alien. On the bridge of Tommy's Hope, Colonel Maria Rodriguez stood tall, her eyes fixed on the main view screen. "Status report," she commanded, her voice calm despite the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Chen, responded quickly. "All systems nominal, Colonel. The fleet is maintaining formation. No sign of Empire activity yet." Rodriguez nodded, allowing herself a small smile. So far, so good. Days turned into weeks as the fleet journeyed deeper into uncharted space. The crew settled into a routine, but there was always an undercurrent of tension. They were venturing into the unknown, carrying the hopes and dreams of their entire planet. In the mess hall of Tommy's Hope, a group of young officers sat together, picking at their food. One of them, Ensign Sarah Thompson, spoke up. "Do you ever wonder what the Empire is like? What their worlds look like?" Her friend, Ensign Michael Okoye, shrugged. "I try not to think about it. They killed Tommy. That's all I need to know." The mention of Tommy's name brought a somber mood to the table. It was a reminder of why they were here, floating in the depths of space, far from home. Meanwhile, in the engine room, Chief Engineer Akira Tanaka worked tirelessly. The faster-than-light drives were a marvel of human ingenuity, but they required constant maintenance. As he adjusted a panel, he muttered a quiet prayer. "Keep running, baby. We're counting on you." Weeks turned into months. The fleet encountered its first major obstacle, a massive asteroid field. It stretched as far as their sensors could detect, a sea of rocky debris that threatened to tear their ships apart. On the bridge, Rodriguez faced her first major test as fleet commander. "We can't go around it," she said, studying the sensor readings. "It would take too long. We have to go through." Lieutenant Chen looked worried. "But Colonel, the risk." Rodriguez cut him off. "I know the risk, but we didn't come this far to turn back now. Alert all ships. We're going in." What followed was a tense dance through the asteroid field. Ships weaved and dodged, their pilots showing incredible skill. There were close calls and minor collisions, but hour by hour they made progress. As they neared the end of the field, a cheer went up across the fleet. They had done it. They had overcome their first major challenge. But their celebration was short-lived. As they emerged from the asteroid field, their long-range sensors picked up something new. A ship, unlike anything they had seen before. "It's not one of ours," Lieutenant Chen reported, his voice tense. Rodriguez leaned forward in her chair. "First contact," she whispered. Then, louder, "Open a channel. Let's see who our new friends are." The alien ship, sleek and silver, hung in space before them. For a moment, there was silence. Then a voice crackled over the comm system. The universal translators worked overtime to decipher the strange language. "Unknown fleet," the voice said, "you have entered Zorak space. Identify yourselves." Rodriguez took a deep breath. This was the moment they had prepared for. "This is Colonel Maria Rodriguez of the Earth Fleet. We come seeking the Galactic Empire." There was a pause, then the alien voice returned, sounding surprise. "Earth? We know of no such world. And why do you seek the Empire? They are not to be trifled with." Rodriguez's voice was firm as she replied. "They came to our world. They killed one of our children. We seek justice." Another pause, longer this time. When the alien spoke again, there was a note of respect in its voice. "Your bravery is admirable, Earth Fleet. But you should know, the Empire is vast and powerful. They control thousands of worlds." Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. "Then it's a good thing we brought 700,000 ships." The alien ship escorted them to a nearby space station. As they docked, Rodriguez couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. They were about to step into a larger galaxy, full of unknown dangers and potential allies. As she prepared to meet the Zorak leaders, Rodriguez touched the small photo of Tommy she kept in her pocket. "We're getting closer," she whispered. "We won't let you down." The journey was far from over, but Earth had taken its first steps into the galactic community, and they were determined to make those steps count. The moment Earth had been waiting for had finally arrived. After months of travel and preparation, the Earth fleet faced the heart of the Galactic Empire. The Imperial capital world loomed large on their view screens, surrounded by thousands of enemy ships. Colonel Maria Rodriguez stood on the bridge of Tommy's Hope, her face set with determination. "This is it," she said, her voice carrying across the entire fleet. "Remember why we're here. Remember Tommy." Across 700,000 ships, crews steeled themselves for the fight ahead. They had come so far, overcome so much. They weren't about to back down now. On the Imperial flagship, Emperor Zorn laughed as he saw the Earth fleet. "So the primitives have come to play," he sneered. "Crush them. Show them the true power of the Empire." The space between the two fleets lit up with weapons fire. Lasers and missiles crisscrossed the void, creating a deadly light show. Earth ships weaved and dodged, their advanced technology allowing them to hold their own against the more numerous Imperial forces. In the engine room of Tommy's Hope, Chief Engineer Akira Tanaka worked frantically to keep the ship's systems running. "Come on, baby," he muttered as he rerouted power. "Don't fail us now." On the bridge, Lieutenant Chen called out, "Colonel, our left flank is taking heavy fire." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Redirect Squadrons 3 and 4 to support. We need to hold the line." As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Empire had underestimated Earth. They had expected an easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves facing a determined and technologically advanced foe. Emperor Zorn's laughter had long since faded, replaced by anger and disbelief. "How is this possible?" he raged. "They're just humans." His admiral, a grizzled veteran of many campaigns, looked worried. "Sire, we're taking heavy losses. These humans, they fight like nothing we've ever seen." Back on Tommy's Hope, Rodriguez saw an opportunity. "Their center is weakening," she said. "All ships, focus fire on the Imperial flagship. It's time to end this." The Earth fleet moved as one, concentrating their attack on Emperor Zorn's massive ship. The Imperial vessel's shields flickered and failed under the onslaught. In a desperate move, Zorn ordered his ship to ram the Earth flagship. "If I'm going down, I'm taking their leader with me," he shouted. Rodriguez saw the danger too late. "Evasive maneuvers," she yelled, but there wasn't enough time. The Imperial flagship crashed into Tommy's Hope in a spectacular collision. Both ships began to break apart, debris flying in all directions. As alarms blared around her, Rodriguez made a quick decision. "All hands, abandon ship," she ordered. Then, to Lieutenant Chen, "Set a collision course for their main reactor. Let's make this count." Chen looked at her in shock. "But Colonel, you'll be." Rodriguez cut him off with a sad smile. "It's been an honor serving with you all. Now go." "That's an order." As escape pods launched from Tommy's Hope, Rodriguez guided the dying ship towards the heart of the Imperial flagship. In her final moments, she thought of Earth, of Tommy, of all they had fought for. The resulting explosion was visible across the entire battlefield. When the light faded, both flagships were gone. For a moment, there was silence. Then, across the Earth fleet, a rallying cry went up. For the Colonel, for Tommy, for Earth. With renewed determination, the Earth ships pressed their attack. The Imperial forces, shocked by the loss of their leader and the humans' resolve, began to falter. Hour by hour, the tide of battle turned. Imperial ships surrendered or fled. The Earth fleet, though battered, stood victorious. As the dust settled, Lieutenant Chen, now the highest-ranking officer, received a transmission from the Imperial capital. We surrender," came a shaky voice. "Please, no more." Chen closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. They had won, but at a great cost. "Cease fire," he ordered. "Accept their surrender." As the Earth fleet moved to secure the Imperial capital, Chen couldn't help but think of Colonel Rodriguez, of Tommy, of all those who had given their lives to reach this point. "We did it," he whispered. "We showed them what humanity is capable of." The battle was over. The Galactic Empire had fallen, and humanity had announced its presence to the universe in a way that would never be forgotten. The dust of battle had settled, but the galaxy would never be the same. The fall of the Galactic Empire sent shockwaves across countless worlds, and at the center of it all stood humanity, no longer seen as primitives, but as a force to be reckoned with. On the Imperial capital world, now under Earth's control, Lieutenant Chen, acting commander of the Earth fleet, stood before a sea of alien faces. Some looked afraid, others curious, and a few even seemed hopeful. "We did not come here to conquer," Chen said, his voice amplified for all to hear. "We came for justice, and now that justice has been served, we offer peace." His words were met with murmurs of surprise. The aliens had expected retribution, not mercy. Back on Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. People poured into the streets, celebrating their triumph. But the joy was tinged with sadness as the list of casualties was released. So many had given their lives for this moment. In their small-town home, Tommy's parents watched the celebrations on TV. Linda held the photo of her son close. "He would have loved to see this," she said softly. Tom nodded, tears in his eyes. "He did see it, honey. He was with them every step of the way." As days passed, the full impact of Earth's actions began to unfold. The power vacuum left by the Empire's fall threatened to plunge the galaxy into chaos. Many worlds looked to Earth for leadership. In an emergency session of the United Nations, world leaders debated their next move. The Secretary General addressed the Assembly. "We have a responsibility now, not just to Earth, but to the entire galaxy." After hours of discussion, a decision was reached. Earth would not seek to replace the Empire. Instead, they would help establish a galactic federation, where all worlds would have an equal voice. The task ahead was enormous: rebuilding worlds devastated by the Empire's rule, establishing new trade routes, creating a system of laws that could work for thousands of different species. But humanity was ready for the challenge. On the former Imperial capital, now renamed Unity Station, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered. Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood before them. "Today, we begin a new chapter in galactic history," he said. "Together, we will build a future of peace and prosperity for all." As the new Galactic Federation took shape, Earth continued to advance. The technology developed for the war found new, peaceful applications. Faster-than-light travel opened up the stars for exploration and colonization. In schools across Earth, children learned about the Great Space Battle and the birth of the Federation. Tommy's story was told in every classroom, a reminder of how one small life could change the course of history. 5 years after the fall of the Empire, a grand ceremony was held on Unity Station. A memorial was unveiled, dedicated to all those who had given their lives in the war. At its center stood a statue of a small boy, Tommy, reaching for the stars. As Admiral Chen laid a wreath at the base of the statue, he thought back to that fateful day when it all began. How far they had come since then, how much they had lost, and how much they had gained. A young alien child approached Chen, looking up at him with wide eyes. "Is it true?" the child asked. "Did your people really travel across the galaxy just because the Empire hurt one of your young?" Chen knelt down, meeting the child's gaze. "Yes," he said simply, "because every life is precious, and we will always stand up for what's right, no matter the cost." The child nodded solemnly, then smiled. "I'm glad you're here," it said. As Chen watched the child walk away, he felt a sense of hope. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but also dangers. Yet with the spirit that had brought them this far, he knew humanity was ready for whatever lay ahead. In the endless expanse of space, Earth's fleet continued to grow. Not for war now, but for peace and exploration. And on each ship, a small plaque could be found, bearing the words that had started it all. For Tommy, for Earth, for humanity. The stars beckoned, and humanity answered. Their journey was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun.